joined us. This is Perfect Game College Baseball. He's Hunter Pence. I'm Daron Sutton, and you're you. And we're heading into the fall on campus. It's such a great time. We've got two Jays, Hunter, on this show. Jay Sirianni, Sam Houston, Jay Johnson, LSU. Let's start with Sirianni. You know him personally. When he was back at Texas Arlington, he used to throw you BP. Now he's doing really good things at Sam Houston.
Yeah, very excited for the two wonderful Jays we have here today. And Jay Sirianni, I owe him a big thanks for throwing me some BP back when I would come back to UTA. Did a wonderful job with the pitching at UTA and now doing great at Sam Houston. They got a lot of offense coming back this year, so that's going to be exciting. A lot of the same offense. And we're talking the Carlos Contreras to the tune of 1150-ish OPS. Absolutely insane. But he's got a young pitching staff. It's going to be exciting to hear what he has to say about these guys. Besides their one starter coming back, it's a pretty new squad. So Jay Sirianni, just amazing baseball mind. Very excited to see what Sam Houston and him have in store.
Yeah, it's crazy. Guys like Contreras, Wischkowski, Chadwick, Janik, Lloyd, Brewster, Jefferson. They're all names that put up big numbers. It was a crazy offensive year last year. Jay Johnson's the head coach at LSU, and Hunter, anyone who was elite that was available in the transfer portal that maybe wanted to change their journeys, it feels like they all chose LSU. It was crazy how he was able to add on to his roster through the summer through the transfer portal.
Yeah, Jay Johnson, one of the best minds in all of college baseball. Adding Wes Johnson, so now they got the Johnson and Johnson connection, taking him out of the big league pitching Twins over to LSU. So now, what an amazing amount of talent, amazing mindset and development between them, and what they brought in from the transfer portal. Tommy Tanks, the number one ranked transfer portal in all the land, in all the nation. So it is very exciting, LSU this fall, and I'm excited to see what he has in store and what's going on over there.
The slugger as a freshman, Tommy White, last year, Hunter appropriately called him by his social media name, Tommy Tanks. Paul Skeens comes from Air Force. He's kind of a Shohei Ohtani on the collegiate level. The two Jays, and maybe some mention of Johnson and Johnson as well. We'll have fun with it. Glad you're hanging out with us. I'm Daron, he's Hunter. Let's go. Perfect Game College Baseball. Jay Sirianni is the head coach at Sam Houston, and boy, with his team and who he has been there with the 68 wins in his time, and took on the job, by the way, when he first started through the pandemic, which is always an interesting time to start. But what a year last year, 21-9 in WAC play, and he spends time with us now. Jay, thanks for hanging out with Hunter and I on our unique show. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
For you, reconnecting with your athletes, the fall is here, and it's still probably a little warm outside, but that doesn't matter. The fall is here. For you, how excited are you to get back into the rigors of building your program for the 23 season? How rewarding has it been to get everyone back?
Well, it's always fun to get everybody back, start getting them into a routine of just getting to class, coming to the field, putting in the work day in and day out. When you have a lot of your offense back, but you have a brand new pitching staff, we get to, from the pitching side, dot every I, cross every T, and almost start in kindergarten. And then offensively, we get to kind of start over again and see how we can, kind of ramp up the competition as early as possible.
Jay, that really leads me into one of my questions I had here, and obviously dotting every I and crossing every T at the college level is extraordinarily important. I think it gets a little bit lost sometimes in the major leagues as well, because I think it's important to remind all these things. It's one of the things I loved about college. I want to talk pitching. What excites you most going into this fall? Obviously, you have Stephen Beard coming back, but for the most part, a pretty relatively new pitching staff. So what's been exciting so far for you and the pitching staff and doing all of that work?
Well, the fun part is Stevie's been here for 6 years now. I mean, he's working on a master's, but so he's heard the pitching meetings for 5 straight falls now. But when you have an older guy like Steve that can kind of throw his 2 cents in every now and again, but you get to really start over, and sometimes you need that, and especially in a pitching staff side of it, to where at the end of the day, how do guys get guys out? And let's start there. Let's not. Sometimes we get a little put the cart in front of the horse and try to do a bunch of other stuff. And how do we figure that out? Figure out all of our strengths and I mean, it's crazy. I mean, how do you put your spikes on? So something so simple.
every little detail matters, though, and let's dive into that a little bit. And like development at the college level, since you're in the heart of it, like what do you think is most important for the development at the college level, and how do these pitchers start getting outs? You know, like I love learning this because I think there's a lot that gets lost in just the smallest detail.
Well, you know, I think it's whether it's little league or it's the big leagues, strikes wins. You know, and if you can pound the strike zone with a fastball, you can compete. You can do it with a fastball and a breaking ball, you can win games. You do it with 3 pitches, and you know, I'll see you in the 8th, and we'll see where you're at on pitch count. And so that's kind of where we start. I mean, keep it very, very simple, and being able to be down on the kneecaps and below, and adding and subtracting and all those things. So some guys they've only thrown a 4-seam fastball, for example, and it's like, well, let's see what your 2-seam does. And we get some time here to, you know, kind of become the mad scientist, so to speak. And it's up to the guys to buy in, jump in, and see what gets them better and how they find out.
Jay, you do, and you touched on this, return a ton of your offense. An offense that's last 305, 398, and 450 last year. It's cool. I mean, it was fun going down and checking the athlete. Oh, he's back. Oh, he's back. If it was fun for me to do that in my research, it had to be fun for you to understand what you are returning. So I ask you this, with Carlos Contreras and with Clayton Chadwick and Walker Janik, and I'm going on down the list, so much of your offense is back. You know, where have they evolved? Maybe pick 1 or 2 that you learned of their evolution this summer that you're really proud, and how did they grow as an offense?
Well, I think the biggest thing that they did this summer was they spent a lot of time in the weight room. A lot of time in the weight room with our strength coach, our speed coach, and nutrition, all those things, because they all are older guys. And so, you know, it's to be able to stay healthy over the course of the next 10 months. And so that's been the biggest move. They've all added strength. They're all moving a little more efficiently and those kind of things. But, you know, I think it still goes back to, you go to square one in August, and it's how did you get to where you are? You got to make sure you have a rock solid foundation, whether it's swing, whether it's approach, whether it's, you know, whatever that is. But you always go back to square one and start over. You just get to go through it a little bit quicker than you do if, in my case, on the pitching side, it's kindergarten.
Tell us a little bit about Carlos Contreras. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, but you're his coach. You know who he is as an athlete. You can scout him up for us. Do me a favor and tell us who he is as a hitter.
Well, first off, he's a very hard-working kid. There's not one guy on our team that spends more time in the cages, off the tee, the self-feeding machine, whatever it is. He loves to hit. He's always in there. He understands his strengths. He doesn't try to do, you know, more than what he's really capable of. He's got unbelievable bat-to-ball skills. So contact is always a big piece for him. But, you know, I think the evolution last year for him was understanding that pitchers were going to try to use him against himself. And he started to get a little bit more patient and shrinking the strike zone and waiting for a pitch to hit.
Yeah, Carlos, I mean, 1181 OPS. It's going to be exciting seeing him come back. And you mentioned, you know, a lot of these kids, and this is one of my favorite things with college baseball, Jay, is like year to year, there's just massive improvements and there's a lot of room for growth. Like obviously experience helps, but time in the weight room at this age, you're coming into manhood. And I just want to ask, like, who do you think has a good chance to make a big leap on the scene this year and really impact your squad?
Well, you know, we're excited about Justin Wischkowski. He had a good year last year, but he's really skin and bones, and he's put on a bunch of weight, added some strength. Clayton Chadwick's going to have another consistent, steady year. But I think for me, the guy that has probably played the most baseball over the last 2 years is Lane Brewster. It's kind of raw. It's kind of doesn't always look the part, but he's gained a lot of weight. Went out and played summer ball this year, had a good summer, can really run. And so he's your guy that you had to really start over. The competition was never the issue. It was kind of understanding who he is as a player. And now that he's getting into that, it's starting to get really exciting.
Awesome. I love that. And Jay, obviously, you know, you spent time at UT Arlington, and you threw me some batting practice. I have to say thank you for that. And you've been around the game for a long time in the college scene. So This leads me to my last question is just your thoughts, and this is something I just, from a personal standpoint, I love to study and hear from the great minds of college baseball. How has college baseball changed over the last 10 years the most?
Oh, wow. 10 years?
Yeah.
You know,
the last 10 years, that's a big window.
Yeah, and it's continually changing. You know, I think, Hunter, when you were in college, you were a large man. You know, you were the guy that rolled in the lineup and everybody goes, "Who's that?" Well, guys are bigger and stronger. I mean, they're just bigger. That's the biggest move for me, or the biggest thing I've seen is your lineup is speed and strength and size, pretty much 1 through 9 anymore. And so that's one side. The other side is, you know, Major League Baseball was big in the analytics stuff of it, and the side it's starting to come down into college baseball more and more. And so I'm fortunate. I have some assistants around me that can speak that lingo. I'm still kind of old school in that way, but you know, we're able to get a little bit more because that's how kids learn now. That's how they learn stuff. So we try to blend my old school stuff and the new school terminology to get everybody on the same page. But I think those are some big moves. And then obviously, you know, I think from an attendance standpoint, the competition side, it's just continuing to grow to become even a better game for fans and you know, crowds and all that kind of thing. So we're in a good part. The scary part is the portal and that stuff. It's kind of scary. I think teams are going to continue to stay really old, which sometimes that's going to affect player development from a younger side, but it is what it is. You got to just keep moving.
Jay, it's interesting. Part of that development for you and your athletes is you had a fearless schedule last year. I anticipate the same thing this year. You know, it's one thing to play within the WAC and that Southwest Division, which is a good one, and you won 21 games. But then for you, it's Texas, it's Houston, it's Texas A&M, it's Texas State, it's Oklahoma State, it's Dallas Baptist in either a series or a midweek game. I love the fact, A, that you schedule those Power 5 schools, and B, within Texas and Oklahoma, there seems to be really a willingness to work together with these teams, that everyone plays one another. I think that's very cool for the athletes.
Well, you know, I think there's a lot of really good coaches in our area, and I think that starts there. But we also understand as a group of coaches in this area, you get better by playing good teams. And you know, you could soften schedules and that kind of thing, but that's not what our guys signed up for. It's not what I signed up for. Let's go see how good we can be. And, you know, a lot of games that we schedule, it's going to come down to one at-bat, one pitch, or one play. And when that happens, you know. And so in the clubhouse, we call them big kid games. And there's nothing more fun than getting into those and seeing what happens.
So to tell me a little bit about the WAC from your perspective. You know, you guys had a really good time last year in the Southwest. Grand Canyon's kind of known as a team on the other side of the conference that's very strong. But Lamar and Rio Grande Valley and Abilene Christian and Tarleton State and SFA, I mean, all in your part, in your division. From your perspective, talk through the WAC, please.
Well, it's a dogfight weekend, every weekend. You know, it's a body of work. It's 30 games to see how well you can or you know how well you play over that course. It's not necessarily how good you are that weekend. You're gonna, you know, last year we had to play them 6 times, a home and home at both places. So it was a battle to see how consistent you could be, how many series you can win, and those kind of things. But it's a competitive league. We don't know a lot about the West. We will get into it a little bit this year. So, you know, but it's an old league. I can't say, and I'm not saying this with any disrespect, there's not a lot of first, second, third round draft picks. It's an old league. There's a lot of experience. So those mistakes that, you know, Carlos Contreras has seen every slider that the WAC is going to throw. It's just whether he hits it or not. And it goes for a lot of guys in our league. So the experience side is big. Same on the pitching. It can get really offensive, but it always comes down to strikes.
Well, it's incredible stuff. Best of luck to you, Jay. We appreciate your time. Have a great fall at Sam Houston, and we can't wait to reconnect with you.
Sounds good, guys.
Jay Sirianni, Sam Houston, 21 wins last year, 21-9 in the WAC. Excited to see where they head this year. Another Jay is waiting to talk with us. Jay Johnson, LSU, continuing our conversations on Perfect Game College Baseball on Perfect Game TV. Jay Johnson is the head coach at LSU. He is certainly a friend of ours. He is a friend of our content. He is always available to talk, no matter when he's been out west or at LSU, and we love reconnecting. Jay, thanks for hanging out with Hunter and I. We really appreciate it.
Awesome to be on with you guys, as always.
I'm going to talk a lot of players with you, but I'm making a mistake if I don't talk with you about Wes Johnson since you've joined us. And, you know, it's been well written. It's been well covered. A guy who cut his teeth, made that well-documented move to professional baseball, out of the college ranks, now comes back to the college ranks to be your pitching coach. I know this is old news for you because you guys are grinding and working now, but just walk me through his decision, your communication, because it grabbed a lot of attention, deservedly so.
Yeah, so excited about that. Last year we had one of the best offenses in college baseball, and when I first came here, I actually tried to get Wes last year in the summer of 2021. He was kind of in the middle of it with the Twins, and the timing just didn't work. And so when the position opened again, once Coach Kelly got the head job at Washington, it was a really easy decision to go back to him and kick the tires on it, and very thankfully came together very quickly and very easily. It's a long time competitive relationship where I've had a ton of respect for him. In 2016, we played Mississippi State in the Super Regional. He was the pitching coach at Mississippi State. And then at 2017 and 2018 at Arizona, we actually played Arkansas both of those seasons. And so for 3 straight years, his last 3 years in college baseball, got a firsthand look at how quality he was at developing arms and a staff. And I used the analogy to somebody earlier, like your offense going against his pitchers was like going to the dentist. Like everything was hard and uncomfortable, and certainly happy to have him here. I just think you can't quantify what that means for our program and our current pitchers on this staff and the future of LSU pitching.
Real quickly, I just want to follow up very quickly. You realize why this is a big deal. The walls are coming down. They've come down when he jumped to pro ball. Now they come down when he comes back. Heck, your old role, that wall comes down when a pro coach leaves in season to go be a head coach at a college program. You get why this is unique and a cool deal, right?
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, and for me, I kind of simplify it to this, is I want our staff, our program to be a vehicle for players to reach their dream of being major league players someday. For sure, we're trying to win a national championship. For sure, we're trying to go to Omaha every year, but how we do that is important, and that's by developing players, and developing teams. And you do that through your quality of your staff and the environment that you provide for the players to develop and the type of coaching that you provide them. And there's nobody better than Wes, in my opinion, to do that with pitchers. And I'm not just talking about in the college level. I'm talking in any level of baseball. And we're certainly excited to see that take place here over the next few years.
Absolutely, and I'm excited for Wes is bringing that to the pitching staff at LSU. But I'm also very excited to now say that y'all have Johnson Johnson at LSU. Has there been any jokes about that at all?
Well, not necessarily about that, but, adding him and then Josh Jordan, who's outstanding as our recruiting coordinator, I don't think we're going to be breaking any height records for our coaching staff.
Love that. Well, speaking of Josh Jordan and recruiting, I'm not sure how much he had to do with this portal, but you got the #1 portal transfer class. Tommy Tanks coming your way. I know that all of my brother and all my nibblings, they love Tommy Tanks, and they're pumped that he's coming to LSU. Thatcher Hurd, can you talk a little bit about this transfer portal and how you got such great talent in some of these kids?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a pretty simple process, Hunter, and really no different than how we look at recruiting every year. And, somewhere along the way last year in the middle of the year, we kind of had this vision of what we wanted our next couple years team to look like. And that was the best players from this past year's team in 2022, where we won 40 games, the Dylan Cruz, Trey Morgan, Jordan Thompson. I mean, there's some really, Josh Pearson, there's some really good foundational pieces, and identifying kind of who we wanted to move forward with. And then we had a really good freshman class. I think we had 6 guys get through the draft that played in the All-American game last year, which we're excited about those guys. And then it was kind of look at those 2 groups and then what did we need to kind of complete the puzzle. And it was pretty simple. We needed starting pitching. I think we won like 7 SEC games last year where we made a pitching change before the end of the 3rd inning. I mean, it was crazy. We were like Tampa Bay Rays, opener staffing it like every game. So we needed to do that. So adding Thatcher Hurd, Paul Skeens from Air Force, and then Christian Little from Vanderbilt, we felt like we have 3 guys that have the possibility of becoming starting type pitchers and getting deeper into the game so you can shrink what the bullpen has to do. And then we lost 2 of the best hitters in college baseball. I mean, Jacob Berry was the first college hitter taken in the draft, or first college player taken in the draft. And then Kate Doty was a second rounder as well. So then, really adding Tommy White, I mean, you can't find a better guy to replace, that type of production. And then Ben Napolt from Virginia Commonwealth is a really good, solid player. It's an on-base guy, what I would call a money ball type guy. So we really just tried to put it together with what we needed and excited about the guys we added.
Yeah, Jay, you added a lot of weapons, a lot of talent, and I know that a lot of that is exciting, but I still have to ask you, like, going into the fall, you said good morning to us, and I asked if it was still morning for you, and you're like, well, I've already done weightlifting, 2 hitting groups, you're pumping right now, but what excites you most going into this fall at LSU? Like, is there any one particular thing or all of the things that excite you the most?
Yeah, I'm excited about our group, but I think now getting into the second year, in my past, I've usually had I've seen a big improvement in players in their second year with us, whether it was their freshman year to their sophomore year or our first year as a staff to the second year. And what I found is you're not trying to like feel each other out and set a foundation and all that. We can kind of just get to work on things. And with the new players, this is all they're ever going to know is kind of how we roll in this process. So it's off to a good start. I'm not one for really wasting days. If the NCAA allows us to work, then we should work and develop players because better than anybody, that's the only way you can have a professional career and sustain it is by having some talent and then put the time in to develop that talent.
So it's interesting because through change, obviously you take over the program. It's been a summer of change for you guys with the transfer portal. I mean, that's how you build. Dylan's been there. Dylan Cruz has been there, and he was an OG, I guess. In the fast-moving world, he was an OG Tiger, right? So speak to him. Speak to Dylan Cruz. He had an incredible year last year. We knew him through the Perfect Game world, obviously, very, very intimately. Always enjoyed our time. But where is he in his evolution as his head coach? How much does he mean to your program as we head into his junior year?
He is special. And Daron, all the great players I've been lucky to coach, at multiple stops. He has more talent than any college player that I've ever seen. And what's great about it is the impact of the talent. I want to say he hit like 350 with close to 23 or 24 or 25 home runs, about 80 RBIs. And it was the most loud or qualityest 350 like you could hit. I mean, the way he impacts the game is unbelievable. He's made himself into a great defensive center fielder. But I think maybe the untold story about him is when you have a guy with that much talent for the character and the makeup to exceed that. Like, this dude's a better person than he is a player. And he's, in my opinion, the best player in college baseball. And so that's kind of what makes him special. And he's taken on more of a leadership type role. And, we're all working hard because we want to enjoy this time while we have him. I've mentioned LSU fans, like, you want to come out and see this guy play this year because this guy doesn't show up on a college campus every day.
Your freshman class, as I see what you're building, it reminds me a little bit of what Wooden built in the 70s. And follow me here. You had the red shirt if you went to UCLA. You had the weight. It's going to be tough for Jaden Newt, who's an uber athlete who could pitch and hit. For Paxton Kling, who we saw, who's super, super talented. So many. We love Gavin Guidry. What a great athlete he is. A local product, in-state product. Talk to me a little bit about the challenge of a freshman and cracking that lineup, and yet maybe it makes them better. Maybe it sharpens them earlier.
Yeah, I think when you come to a place like this, you're doing it for a couple reasons. Number one, you want to develop and become a major league player. On the offensive side of it, our track record is our track record, which is outstanding of developing hitters and developing position players. And then when you add a Wes Johnson, now we have the same thing on the pitching side of things. We're also coming to try to go to Omaha and win a national championship. And you can't do that without other good players. And I think what we're looking at is trying to make this an every year type thing. We're in the mix and the running for that, where every year there's high draft picks. Every year you're knocking on the door of the College World Series or trying to win a national championship. And the only way to do that is with talent throughout your roster. And some of the best stories, as I said, were guys getting into their second year, their third year, and watching them progress and develop. Those guys you mentioned, a Jaden Newt, a Paxton Kling, a Gavin Guidry, their talent is there. There is no question about that. And 2 weeks into this thing, you can see that. What we have to do is help them take that talent and make it usable skill so they can make a positive contribution to the team. And I'm excited to do that. And, those two guys, the two hitters you mentioned, I was just with them an hour ago, and their mind's right, their work ethic's right, and I have no doubt they're going to be making a positive contribution sooner rather than later.
Jay, that's phenomenal stuff. And LSU, obviously a hotbed of the best baseball talent. It's been one of the best baseball programs in a long time. Some of the best developers, and yourself and your staff there. I just want to get to the nuts and bolts and see if you can share some of that wisdom with us. Like, can you talk hitting development and what you think is most important to develop college hitters these days? Because I know when you step on LSU, you've earned it to even get there. You haven't necessarily earned being on the field, but you are an elite talent just being there. So what is the most important for you to develop this great talent?
Yeah, I think we have a very deliberate process that we go through. Like, a lot of people use that word, process over results, but we really try to define it and just this part of the year go real step by step so the players have a really good foundation, so they have something they can come back to. And then I think maybe what separates us is everything we do in practice or training is designed to help during the game. And we all know how hard hitting is. So it's giving them a good foundation, whether it's their vision, their mechanics, their approach, their pitch selection. So we always have something we can come back to. And so they can become their own best coach and make their own adjustments. So we go really slow. I've always talked about the fall of we want to cut it in half and master the things that we do in the fall. I mean, baseball hasn't changed in a long time in terms of the fundamentals that win. And so we really hound those, harp on those, and then find out what we have in the fall, send them home for break with the things that they need to do to improve so we can hit the ground running when the season starts. So it's something I'm really into, of how the year shapes in terms of the fall, the spring, the summer, and then just get them on this wheel where it's constantly turning and they're constantly getting better.
Jay, it definitely gets me excited. I can't wait for baseball to start. I get too excited. And I think a lot of times, I wish I would have known this as a player, and you mentioned it right there, is slow down. Slow down. Don't try to rush the patience, because when you slow down, it actually speeds everything up because you can really lock in. So I think that is something that's very important for everyone in the baseball world to learn. And I guess this leads me to my next question is, who do you think has made a big leap in development that might be surprising to us? Who has a great chance to break out a little bit more than even expected that you've just kind of witnessed in the little time you've had with them so far?
Yeah, I think, everybody knows Dylan. Everybody knows Trey Morgan. He's one of the best hitters in the country as well. Josh Pearson is a player that had a really good season for us as a freshman last year. It takes really professional type at bats. I could see him making the step forward. Jordan Thompson was a very clutch player for us last year. Really improved defensively as the season went along. And he really gutted it out. He had knee surgery 3 weeks before the season started and played opening night. So that tells you a little bit about his toughness. But I think that hampered him a little bit. He's fully healthy, so I would expect him to take a step forward. On the pitching side, Ty Floyd was really, really good for us at the end of the year last year. And I think he's poised to make a real positive contribution. So that's a great part about being here is you may see a different player from one year to the next. And, we're just trying to get a roster full of guys that are really competitive with seeing how hard they can push the envelope, how good they can get, and put the right team together.
Jay, my favorite interview last year, with all due respect to everyone, yourself included, was with Paul Skeens, and did a lengthy interview with him. And I walked away floored, with his commitment, his desire, who he was, his family upbringing in Southern California. That was a shocker, and a cool shocker that, with his transfer. Two-way gifted player, huge power, huge on the mound. How did he find you? How did you find him? And do you plan on still using him to help you as a pitcher as well?
Yeah, he is going to be a pitcher and a hitter. I think Paul has a chance to be a first-round pick as a pitcher. So we'll probably put the catching thing away for good. The whole go behind the plate, come out to the mound, that's probably not going to happen. That's not in his best interest. But as a hitter, he has tremendous power, tremendous strength and bat speed. As a pitcher, I mean, it's a fastball, up to 97 miles an hour, developing secondary stuff. But you said it, Daron, what makes him, just like I mentioned with Dylan Cruz, is the character. And when you talk about building a team and building a culture, when your best players are the type of people that Dylan Cruz are, that Paul Skeens are, then you can talk about building something. And so I'm excited for Paul's contribution as a pitcher and as a player. I'm equally excited to have a young man of his character in our program, having a positive impact on everybody else. And 3 weeks into it, that's exactly how it's going.
Not surprising at all. Jay, thanks for the update. We'd love to have you back on pretty regularly because it's such a great story what you're doing there. So thank you for your time.
All right, guys. Have a great day.